morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Gathering. To celebrate the virtue of wisdom in this week of Cinco de Mayo, I would like to read to you the story of Ferdinand the Bull. Last month was devoted to a discussion of gentleness and humility, and Ferdinand himself is the gentlest and humblest bull you can imagine. But he's also wise, and as you listen to his story, think about him in that way. This book is very old. It was first published in 1938. That's 82 years ago. For many of you, that is before even your grandparents were born. I'd like to show you the original black and white pictures as well as the more recent color pictures. I grew up with the black and white version, and I shared that version with my own children. So I didn't even know that this book existed in a color version until I was preparing to do this morning gathering. I immediately assumed that everyone would want to see the pictures in color. However, seeing them both together, I found that I preferred the old pictures in black and white. Is that because it's the one I grew up with? Maybe. I think the black and white ones pop off the page and also convey a certain vastness, whereas it looks to me like the colored ones recede into the background. But I'm really curious to see what you think. So here we go, the story of Ferdinand the Bull. Once upon a time in Spain, there was a little bull, and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He liked to sit quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree. It was his favorite tree, and he would sit in its shade all day long and smell the flowers. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. She was afraid he would be lonesome all by himself. "Why don't you run and play with all the other little bulls and skip and butt your head?" she would say. But Ferdinand would shake his head. "I like it better here, where I can sit just quietly and smell the flowers." His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was a cow, she let him sit there and be happy. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns. What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to sit just quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fastest, roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. All the other bulls ran around snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care. So he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. He didn't look where he was sitting, however, and instead of sitting on the nice, cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him, of course, and that is just what this bee did to Ferdinand. Wow, did it hurt. Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting, butting and pawing the ground as if he were crazy. The 5 men saw him, and they all shouted with joy. Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. So they took him away for the bullfight day in a cart. What a day it was! Flags were flying, bands were playing, and all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. They had a parade into the bull ring. First came the banderilleros with long pins with ribbons on them to stick in the bull and make him mad. Next came the picadores, who rode tall, skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick in the bull and make him madder still. Then came the matador, the proudest of all. He thought he was very handsome and bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and a sword and was supposed to stick the bull last of all. Then came the bull, and you know who that was, don't you? They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the banderilleros were afraid of him, and the picadores were afraid of him, and the matador was scared stiff. Ferdinand ran to the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns all around. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers in all the lovely ladies' hair, and he just sat down quietly and smelled. He wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled. And the banderilleros were mad, and the picadores were madder, and the matador was so mad he cried because he couldn't show off with his cape and sword. So they had to take Ferdinand home. And for all I know, he is sitting there still under his favorite cork tree, smelling the flowers just quietly. He is very happy. I think Ferdinand is very wise because he doesn't try to be like the other bulls. He knows exactly who he is, and he is content with that. I also think he helps us remember that it takes 2 to have a fight. There cannot be a bullfight if the bull won't fight the matador. In that same way, it takes 2 to have an argument. You can't have an argument if one person refuses to argue. Now it's time for a song. Please join Mrs. Webb and Adam Webb and me in singing America the Beautiful. Here we go.
Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Have a great day, everyone. And don't forget to go outside into this beautiful day and smell the flowers.